Welcome back to the fourth module of administering service and support applications in Salesforce. I'm Adrien Sacco, Salesforce Certified Professional and Consultant, and in the last module, we learned how to automate support processes in Salesforce Service Cloud. In this module, we will learn how we can manage knowledge inside of Salesforce Service Cloud. Specifically, we will learn how the knowledge object is constructed and how you can customize it to your liking. You will then learn how to classify your knowledge articles in data groups and categories. And finally, we will go ahead and configure a Salesforce knowledge instance step by step inside of Service Cloud. So, let's get going. In this lesson, we'll go over the theoretical concepts that will allow us to understand Salesforce knowledge. In the next lesson, we will configure it step by step. Now, the first thing we need to understand is exactly what is Salesforce knowledge. Salesforce Knowledge is the knowledge management system that allows you to manage all of your company's knowledge and documentation in one central place. Specifically, it allows you to create and make articles available to your users so that they can leverage them when resolving cases, optimize the full article lifecycle by basing yourself on a tried and trusted specification called KCS V6, for which Service Cloud is a certified solution. You will also be able to surface knowledge articles using smart suggestions on cases using Lightning components. You will also be able to version your articles, add attachments to them, etc. All in all, Salesforce Knowledge is a great knowledge management solution that I'm sure you will find very powerful and flexible. One of the key concepts of Salesforce Knowledge is the knowledge object. The knowledge object is a central piece of the solution. It is the object that allows you to store all your knowledge in records called articles. It is composed of multiple components that you can leverage to store information about the article in. The title allows you to name the article. Plain and simple. It will show up in the interface in many different places to identify that specific knowledge article. The knowledge article content is a rich text box in which you can also input HTML content and images in order to create graphically pleasing content that your users can then leverage to resolve cases. This could be used, for example, to create bullet point checklists, steps with screenshots, error code tables with resolution, etc. Once you gave a title and content to your knowledge article, you can then classify it using data categories. Those allow you to store your knowledge articles in broad categories to help your users find the knowledge articles more easily. For example, you could have categories for your product lines, departments, etc. Since knowledge articles are objects, it means you can also create record types on the knowledge object. This allows you to add custom fields and make change to the page layouts of the article and assign different page layouts to different article types. Finally, you can also specify the status of the article. Is it still draft and not ready to be used in production? Is it waiting for approval from someone? Or is it published? That's what the status allows us to specify. So now that we understand what the knowledge object looks like, let's learn a little bit more about the data categories themselves. We already talked a little bit about them, but let's dive into them more as they are key features in Salesforce Knowledge. Data categories in Salesforce allows you to classify and easily navigate to articles. They can also be used to set up navigation paths in Salesforce communities to make it easy for people accessing the community to find what they're looking for. To exemplify our data categories, let's create 3 big category containers: product documentation, procedures, and finally, global markets. Those are called category groups. They are used to specify the big buckets in which categories fall. For example, here in global markets, we could add a category for each country that the company interacts with. There is a catch though. You can only have 3 active category groups at a time. So you need to plan them carefully before setting them up in your organization. Now, inside of those category groups, we can then go ahead and create our data categories themselves. As you can tell, we've got quite a few. Now, those categories are the ones you use to classify your articles. You can add articles to multiple data categories if you'd like to. For example, if we have an article called French Market Butler Regulation, we could classify that article in both Global Markets, France, and Product Documentation, Robot Butler. That makes data categories very flexible ways to classify your data. Another key feature of data categories is that they're used to restrict or open access to articles. You can assign certain categories to certain roles, permission sets, and profiles, and thus control who can see what in the organization. For example, you may want to hide the articles classified under Global Markets France to employees that are in a United States related role in the role hierarchy. So, now that we know how knowledge articles and data category work, let's see how that looks like in practice.